Hello, what's up, Labbers? Let's go ahead and get started in today's little unit, which is a total jump from where we were last week. So we've been working on goals and data, and now we're switching over to behavior management, and this is going to be our last official lecture of the semester. So things are really wrapping up. The way that things are going to work is I'm going to publish this um, tomorrow, which is Thursday, the Thursday before Thanksgiving. And then this unit, you're going to have 2 weeks to complete it, right? So usually we have a video, an article, and a small group and a project all due every Friday. So this one is not going to be due the Friday after Thanksgiving, like the next day, like it's not due Black Friday, it's due the week after. And this is just to give your coaches some flexibility of when they want to hold your small group meeting. So you only have to meet one time in that 2 week period. And then it also gives you guys some flexibility because I know that some people are traveling. A lot of people have so much more on their minds with staying safe. I know that COVID case numbers are spiking again, and so we don't want to overwhelm you with 2 lectures on something during a holiday and a crazy time in general anyway. So we'll just have this lecture for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have one final wrap-up lecture to end off the semester that Friday, and there won't really be anything huge other than just your portfolio assignment, which is a really brief, summative project to wrap up all of the information that we've covered. And then we'll also get into more detail about what the spring is going to look like, which we're still kind of figuring out the details. I know a lot of you guys have mentioned that you really want some kind of live component. And unfortunately, because of the rising case numbers, likely in-person stuff is just off the table, unfortunately. It's just obviously a society thing. We are trying to see if we can get any virtual person hours, but that's not official yet. We'll keep you guys updated. Of course, that's what we want for you guys as well. Like, I want to be in the building doing my thing too, and we want that experience for you guys. But it's just going to have to be a decision that comes with time, as with everything in this era, right? Nobody ever knows anything, which is so frustrating from a student perspective. So I know how you guys feel, and we are doing our absolute best to kind of alleviate that stress for you guys and come up with a plan. And we will get that information out to you as soon as possible. If you do want to be involved in the project next semester for sure, just under any regard, you can look at the email Savannah sent today, which is yesterday when I post this. So the overall goal of behavior management is not to punish kids or to, make kids feel bad. It's just to have a nice, peaceful environment for everybody and an environment that's going to be most conducive for you to get your message to the kids. So the three things that you want to do when you're solving behavior problems is: one, you want to stop the behavior, whatever it is, in the moment. Two, you want to decrease the likelihood of that behavior happening again. So we don't want to get into these repetitive negative behaviors, especially for kids who are doing so because of language deficiencies or because of cultural differences, right? So we just want to educate, educate, educate in order to prevent reoccurring negative behaviors. And then finally, we want to replace negative behaviors with a better one. So if a kid usually screams before they need to go to the bathroom, we would want to teach them, hey, instead of screaming, let's ask the teacher to take you to the bathroom. And so that would be an example of replacing a negative behavior with a better behavior. So my favorite way to solve behavior problems, I'm going to keep saying problems because usually behavior is a type of communication. It's not just a kid acting out to act out, which of course that does happen in preschoolers. But usually if there's like a repetitive behavior that is disruptive and maybe attention seeking, there's usually a story behind it, and we don't know these kids' home lives, and some of them do have a hard life and have had not the same background that you had growing up. So it's important to just remain patient and understanding and know that these repetitive bad behaviors are really just their best way of trying to communicate with you that something is wrong. And so your job is to, again, stop the behavior in the moment, teach them a different way to do it in the future, and give them the tools that they need in order to do that. So proactive strategies are my favorite because they happen before anything even goes wrong. So if you're in the classroom, the first thing you need to be doing is observing the students as they come in. Are the kids acting more restless than usual? Are they all running around? Are they seeming a little antsy? Is one kid in particular, from the moment he walks through the door, throwing his coat over somebody or throwing his cereal around, right? So just kind of notice in the transition periods, the end of play and free time, what's the vibe? You know, are the kids learning? Are they restless? Are they angry for whatever reason? Is it raining outside or a full moon and the weather is affecting them? That's definitely a real thing in my brain, maybe not in real life. And then are there limited options for what you're able to do and what they're able to do? And then the second thing is to always set clear expectations. So during those transition periods, you should always be very transparent with the kids about what's going on, what's coming next. What I tend to do is have a certain routine, which a lot of the classrooms do at Rosa Parks. So when it's time to clean up, they sing a certain song and the kids know that it's time to clean up, and then they're going to do something else. At the preschool that I worked at in undergrad, every time that they were going to go to a circle time, like a group time, they would always start off with reading a story. And so they would tell them, okay, guys, like it's time to clean up. And then as they're cleaning up, they would give them like 1 minute, and then they would start singing like, everybody gather around, it's time to read a story. And then the kids hear that song and they know, oh, okay, like we just cleaned up, now we're gonna go read a story. And they know that because they read that song, or not read that song, sing that song every single day, and they know the rules of sitting in the circle, they go over them every single day. And so eventually that becomes a behavior, right? Because it's constantly reinforced. They have a song, they have set rules for circle time. And because there's such clear expectations, you usually see a decrease in negative behaviors versus if a kid has never had a schedule before and they're used to just kind of running around at home. This happens a lot at the beginning of the year. Then they may struggle more because they want to keep playing. Like they don't want to clean up their toys. They don't want to go sit still in a circle. That sounds so boring, right? And so using that consistently is very helpful. And then before starting an activity, remind the kids of behaviors that you want to see. So for example, at the story time, we would always tell kids, okay, you're sitting on your carpet square. You're sitting crisscross applesauce with your hands in your lap, right? And so you're giving them that visual cue of sitting down, hands in your lap. And then usually it helps to have like a visual picture board that you can point to. We talked about this in our visual aids and manipulatives lecture, where it's very beneficial for them to see a picture of a kid sitting crisscross applesauce and seeing a kid with their hands in their laps with a big check mark next to it. And then underneath you could have a kid, pushing his peers with a big cross through it. So the kids know, yes, do this, no, do this, don't do this. Sorry, I'm like all over the place today. And then finally, you always want to use clear, short, and direct language. The reasoning for this is that usually negative behaviors are coming from a place of like a language problem. And so by using clear, short, and direct language, you're making things as salient as possible, versus if you're talking forever and you're saying, okay, everybody, like it's time to go to circle, and then we're going to do this, and then we'll probably sit down and maybe cross our legs, and that's really important because of this and this and this, like everyone tunes you out. So it's better to say, okay, sit down, cross your feet, hands together, right? It's clear, it's short, it's direct, you're giving a model, and usually having that visual aid is also very beneficial as well. So that's kind of how you can prevent negative behaviors from even happening, right? So observing the classroom, looking out for behaviors before they even happen. If you see something start brewing, being able to swoop in and stop it, giving clear directions, having a consistent schedule so they know the behaviors in every part of the day. But even if you do all of that perfectly, guess what? They're still like 3 years old, and they're still learning. A lot of them are in their kind of defiant stage. They're learning that if they do something negative, they get behavior. Sometimes they think like breaking things is funny. And so they're just starting to get a hold on their emotions and their humor and wanting to fit in with their peers. And so you can never fully 100% proactively stop every single behavior from ever happening. And I guarantee you that at some point in your life, whether it is professionally as an SLP or as just a mom or dad, you're going to experience this of you've done everything right and these kids are still just not behaving the way you want them to. And when that happens, you use reactive approaches. And so this is what you guys are most familiar with, probably with behavior management, is timeouts or getting grounded, having like your, when I was a kid, like a Game Boy taken away. Now it's probably like a Nintendo Switch or something. But some approaches are better than others. So let's kind of get into these a little more. So the first thing that I want to talk about is positive versus negative reinforcement. So positive reinforcement is, for example, somebody does a really great job on a homework assignment. You would say, wow, you did a great job on this homework assignment. I can tell you worked really hard on it. So you're giving them that positive feedback, and that positive feedback is going to make them want to do good again because they want to get that positive attention. A negative reinforcement is if a kid turns in just a garbage paper and you're saying, oh my gosh, this is awful. Did you try it all? Right? Or if a kid is acting up and you take away their recess time, right? So a positive is going to be giving praise for a behavior, and a negative is either giving criticism for a behavior or taking something away from them. So you really have to think about, is it going to be more beneficial to scold a child, or is it going to be more beneficial to praise a positive model? Okay, think about that for a minute. It sounds so easy, but in reality, it's so hard. So if you guys have been babysitting at all and one kid is having a total meltdown, it's so easy to just throw that kid into timeout or whatever, when a better thing is going to be to find out, first of all, why are they throwing a temper tantrum? Is something actually genuinely wrong? Or is it because they're upset because you picked a different book, okay, than they wanted? So a better way could be, hey, look at your sister. Your sister's sitting on her bed with her book. She looks ready to read. I'm going to read to your sister, right? So you're showing the child a positive model, explaining why they're a positive model, and explaining the reward they get for being a positive model. And then usually that makes the other child want the reward. And you can say, hey, if you want the reward, you need to be laying in your bed with your book. And once that happens, you get a story. And then you go to the positive model and you start reading them the story. Sometimes it can be effective to ignore a behavior. So if a kid is just having an absolute meltdown, sometimes it's because they want the negative attention. And if you know that it's because a child wants negative attention, it's better to, and it's not hurting themselves, hurting others, causing a huge mess or disruption, then sometimes it can be helpful to ignore the behavior for now. And then once you see the opposite of that behavior, make a huge deal out of it. So say a kid is kind of grumpy and tearing up his paper instead of cutting it with scissors. It's not really hurting him. It's not hurting anyone around. So you can kind of ignore it for now. But then as soon as you see him pick up those scissors, be like, oh my gosh, Joshua, you're cutting with your scissors. Oh my goodness. I am so impressed. I cannot believe that's happening. Here, have a sticker, right? And so rather than scolding him for doing something as silly and small as ripping paper instead of cutting it, it can sometimes be better to ignore for a minute, wait, and praise later. Okay, yeah, here we go. Strategies. I've already started to get into these. So the number one is try to ignore it if it's something small. If it's something bigger, you're going to redirect them. So if they start to fuss up, you're going to say, hey, why don't you go play on the computer instead? That's a bad example. You would never tell a kid to go play on the computer. But maybe say, hey, why don't you go play with the blocks instead of the dinosaurs? I think you're getting a little upset with the dinosaurs right now. And then if they go over to the blocks and they start knocking those down too, you can give them a warning with clear expectations. Hey, Sam, you're knocking over the blocks. That's against the rules. Build the blocks, okay? And so you're going slow, giving clear expectations. If they do it again, you're going to give them a verbal reprimand. Hey, Sam, I already reminded you, we do not knock over the blocks. If you do it one more time, you are going to have to sit in a timeout, okay? And then if they do it again, then you would sit them in a timeout. The timeout is an art. So you want to keep them involved in the thing that's going on because you don't want to take them out of that learning environment and you don't want it to feel like a punishment. It's more of a time where they can cool down and really think about what the behavior needed to be. And you're always going to be very clear before and after the timeout what the behavior was and what the behavior that you wanted is. So a verbal reprimand is going to be identifying a behavior you don't want. So you can tell them why you don't like the behavior and what behavior you want to see instead. So for that example before was, hey, you're knocking over the blocks. That hurts my feelings. I worked hard on this tower. I want you to build the blocks instead, right? So giving a clear, hey, I don't like that. This is why. This is what you should do. An overcorrection, this is a really great strategy, which is where a child has to restore the environment back to its original state. So, for example, sometimes you'll get kids who, when they're angry, start to throw things and make a huge mess. Okay, you're angry. You're communicating to me that you're angry. That's okay. You're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to destroy the room. Okay, so explaining that to them once they've calmed down, and then say, okay, now that you destroyed the room, you're gonna have to clean it. In the future, if you don't want to clean, you can just tell me you're angry and you need a break. And so explaining to them what exactly, again, being clear, this is what I want in the future. Tell me you're mad and you need a break. Don't throw stuff. And always try to end on what you want rather than what you don't want. So I would never say, I want you to clean, not throw things, because kids usually will hold on to that last bit. So it's better to say it in a sense of, look how messy the room is. Oh no, man, we have to clean it now. You have to help me clean it. Next time when you're angry, tell me, I'm angry. I need a break. Then we don't have to clean, right? So you're telling them, this is what I want. And always try to end on that if you can. And then you have to be really consistent with this. Once they do it once or twice, usually the kid will not do it again because they don't like cleaning. And they will learn that when they say, I'm angry, I need a break, then they can have a break and they can get over their anger, and it's usually more constructive. Response cost. I don't like this. The reason why is because this is like when your parents take something away from you, and I don't like it because it makes the kid bitter, first of all, because they're mad because you took away something. But in this example at school, usually it's going to be like you taking away a reward. So sometimes like in schools, you'll see teachers have like a star and a demerit board, right? So every time there's a positive behavior, they get a star. But if they act up, the teacher takes away a star or puts up a demerit to cover the star or whatever, because you lost your star. You were being bad. And the problem with that is that then the child learns it doesn't matter if I'm good because I'm just going to lose my star anyway, like in the future. Like it doesn't matter if I get a star or not, because if I'm bad, she's just going to take it away. It doesn't matter if I'm good. And then you might see an increase in negative behaviors. It also might cause a meltdown that's way worse than the original behavior because you're taking away something that they worked so hard to get, even if it's something as small as a sticker. I'll get into what I prefer to do. I think it's the slide after this one. Again, timeouts, I mentioned before, they're controversial because there's so many ways to do it, and some of them are not effective, and it's not a good strategy for all children. I mentioned earlier that you don't want to take them out of that educational behavior or that educational environment. So you want to pick a spot where they're still able to see all of their classmates doing what you want them to do. And you always want to explain to the child why they're there and what they can do to not be there again. And of course, the adult must release the child. If the child walks off on their own, then it served no purpose. And then finally, the shorter is the better. So sometimes people are like, you're going to sit in timeout for 10 minutes. But these kids are so young, it's better to have it for like 2 minutes. And that's mostly just to give them time to calm down and watch the peer model, because then before the timeout happens, you're going to be like, you were ripping paper, you have to sit in timeout, right? And then after the timeout, you're going to be like, hey, like, remember you're ripping paper, that's why you had to sit here, but now you can come out, look at all of your friends, like they're all cutting the paper, like let's cut our paper with our friends, I'm so excited. And so just getting them hyped to like rejoin the group and follow the modeled behavior can be really helpful for some kids, but not all kids, and definitely it's walking a fine line. This is not always the best strategy, and I personally would not do this in a classroom. Oh, I guess I didn't go over this. So one thing that I like to do instead of taking away an earned reward is to give a reward to the peer models. And so one example of this is at the preschool I was at in undergrad, my professor, she got permission from all the parents to give the kids Skittles as a reward, like 1 Skittle each. And so at story time, if she noticed that the kids had been acting antsy all day, like squirming around, she would look around the circle and see who was sitting quietly, legs crossed, hands in your lap, and she would give them a Skittle, just silently. Wouldn't do anything else. Wouldn't say a word to the kids who were, you know, laying on the ground, like just laying there. Wouldn't do anything. Would just give a Skittle. And then, like, without fail, those kids are like, hey, Miss Helen, I wanted a Skittle. And she would just, you know, sometimes she would ignore them and just keep giving it to the good model. Or sometimes she would tell them, oh, you need to be sitting like legs crossed, hands in your lap. And then as soon as they do that, you give them a Skittle. And she would just do that throughout the day as needed. She wouldn't do it all the time. She wouldn't do it every day. It was every once in a while when she noticed especially negative behavior in the classroom. But the kids were highly motivated by wanting that Skittle. And so if they were laying down on the ground and 3 of the kids around them got Skittles, then immediately they would sit up and sit the way they were supposed to because they want the reward. So instead of giving everyone a Skittle and then taking away a Skittle if you're acting bad, instead you can give the reward only when you see positive behavior, because then that's going to cause the kids with negative behavior to have positive behavior because they want the reward, rather than taking it away from them and then they're melting down because they're like, hey, I earned that Skittle. Why are you taking away my Skittle? I hate you. And then they're going to have a huge meltdown. Same thing at Rosa Parks. We have stickers and the kids love them. I had one kid last year who was not one of the kids on our like helping load. He was just one of the peer models. And a lot of the kids were acting up. It was a super rough day. The teacher was getting frustrated, and she told them all to clean up, and then all the kids just started like trashing the room. Like, we're not cleaning up. They were throwing train tracks everywhere. And one kid started cleaning, and I went, oh my goodness, Jonah, good job. And I gave him a sticker. And then like 5 kids around him looked at me and they saw he was getting a sticker. And I was like, Jonah, you're getting a sticker because you're cleaning up. Here, have another one. You're cleaning up. You get a sticker. And then those kids started cleaning. And I said, oh my goodness, like, you get a sticker, you get a sticker. I felt like Oprah. And then the more kids that noticed other kids were getting stickers, those kids started cleaning because they also wanted a sticker. And then it just kind of like spreads like wildfire and you get so much more positive behavior. And that is my number one strategy for managing behavior, is always give rather than take. Give something salient. That means something they can touch and hold and feel, rather than just saying good job, because at this age, the good job, while it's nice, isn't as motivating as it is for older kids. Stay away from the timeout and the like taking stuff away. Negative reinforcement is not usually very beneficial. Using peer models and rewards is usually better. And try to get to know the kids so you know what motivates them and what they're interested in, because they're going to be more willing to work for it. And it's also going to help build rapport or trust. So if they know that you're interested in what they're interested in, then they're going to trust you more, they're going to respect you more and want to follow your rules. And of course, always do things with kindness. I feel like that goes a long way. I've noticed that when I'm having a bad day, it can sometimes rub off on the kids, even if I am not outright being mean or anything, but usually this is my personality. So usually I'm like this in the clinic. And so if I'm ever having a down day and I'm just like, okay, hey, what's up guys? They usually are kind of taken aback, right? So having that positive attitude can really help build their trust and make them want to follow you because they're having fun and they want to keep having fun. So yeah, that consistency of scheduling, rewards, that's my summary for today. And honestly, I could go more and more into behavior management for like the rest of my life, but I won't, because those are the basics of what you're going to need. And I wanted to be able to give you guys that week off to celebrate the holidays if you need to. So hopefully you guys have found the language facilitation strategies, reading strategies, and data and goals sections all very helpful. And this hopefully is just the icing on the cake of what do I do if something's going wrong and I can't be applying these strategies. So I'm going to go ahead and release this module early this week so you can knock it out if you want to. And then I'm also going to go ahead and release the final stuff soon. So if you want to work early and get it done over break, so you don't have to worry about anything at the end of the semester during finals week, that'll be nice as well. And that'll also help give me some feedback as to how to tailor next semester even more to what you guys want, because I have some ideas, but I want to make sure it's something that people are really going to benefit from and have a good experience with. So of course, if you have any questions at all, let me know. I want to hear your feedback. And finally, let's get into the assignments this week. So again, we're done with video scripts and crafts. They're all done. If you want extra hours or you missed something earlier in this semester, you can do more. Also, we have a JEDI talk, our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion kind of seminars that we have with Grad NISLA. We host one per month. This month is on voice affirming treatment. So working with clients who want to alter their voice to fit their preferred gender, and also working with the LGBTQ plus community and making sure that we are not marginalizing that population. And we are being as supportive clinicians as we possibly can. I'm super excited for it. I'll be there. It's going to be this Friday, and you can use that for lab hours as well. If you just email your coach that you're planning on going, so we can take attendance. And so this week we already should have done the data project and the behavior management articles. And there is a behavior management project that I will be releasing shortly, which is just going to be little scripts of, hey, so-and-so is doing this. How would you respond? And just so you can start to get a feel of how you might deal with these behaviors IRL. So again, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me or your coaches. We definitely want your feedback about how this semester has gone, what you want to see next semester, and then yeah, the behavior management JEDI, yes. That should be all. I hope you guys are having a happy November. It's almost done. We're in the home stretch, just a couple of weeks left. I'm really proud of all of you. It's been such a pleasure working with you. And I will see you guys later. Bye.